When we look at the encoding technology that we put with it, we're dealing with a range of manufacturers from, you know, the sort of high-end Tandberg level all the way down to the CCTV level. We particularly favour Haivision, who are a Canadian company, and you're dealing with codecs that are sub £10,000. And decoders that are half that cost, and we're using grown-up hardware. We're not using video capture cards in PCs. We're trying to find a solution that will work to that level.
And we've had one further question phoned in for Stephen Flood of DCSatNet regarding the encoders that you use. Is there a particular encoder that you can suggest that works best?
Exhaustively over the last heaven knows how many years, we have probably played with we've played with every encoder that a small specialist company can get the manufacturers to actually give us to play with or lend us or whatever, and we've worked through the major players. We think the major players are coming to the party very, very late. In many respects, they have their own legacy equipment in order to try and sell to maintain their market, and the last thing they want is a cheaper product coming through. What we've actually been looking at are three different tiers of product. As we said before, I mean, we work very, very closely with Haivision in Canada, and we have become very involved with their research and development. We are working in a very, very unique environment. That particular company, interestingly enough, do not come from a broadcast background. They come from a medical background. So they are dealing in very, very high resolution imaging, and need to get that imaging outside to other sites for surgery. It's life and death stuff rather than entertainment. So that imaging technology has been moved into the broadcast sector. They actually moved across via the video conferencing arena. This gave them low latency. So we get tissue resolution imaging matched with low latency that then starts to drive into a broadcast marketplace. So rather than, in many respects, it mirrors what I guess we're both doing, Fred. The question is latency through the path, isn't it? It's how long does it take for the signal to leave the truck to arrive at the end user. There are a number of different parts of the chain. We have the encoder and the encoder delays. Our current encoder delays on MPEG-4 are running down in the order of about 200 milliseconds. Some manufacturers are up at about 5 seconds. Our particular favourite at this point in time are down at 200 to 300 milliseconds. The delay in terms of going up in the air, 22,000 kilometres up into space, back down again, 300 milliseconds. We're then into network propagation delays back to our decoders in London. That's another about 40 or 50 milliseconds. And then we're looking at a decoding delay where we're handing back to broadcaster in about really the 800 millisecond mark. We're no different in timescales than...
If I just pushed you to focus on the last question, which was encoders. You mentioned a company in Canada,
yeah,
or a supplier in Canada,
yeah,
and then you breezed through a number of what would have been traditional encoder manufacturers.
Mm-hmm.
Of those, I mean, are there names that you would be happy to work with that meet your requirements? And if so, could you give them?
They're not paying you, Steve.
They're not paying me. I can't promote them. We've worked through Tandberg encoders. We've worked through Invivio encoders. We've worked through Maya encoders. We're waiting to try out Scopus encoders. We've tried some guys in Germany who are doing card level. Across a fair range of them, we've used OptiBase, we've used the Israeli guys. Most of those ones we've gone through test on. When you do what we do, it's generally the response that you get from the manufacturer in order to push the boundaries that actually push your decision on where you're going to go. Now, in many respects, we're encoder agnostic. We work with one client and they use a completely different codec to the ones that we use. We work with different satellite dishes. In many respects, we're a network company. What we do is go through the marketplace and test the encoders. So for clients, if the client wants to buy X encoder, then we'll go, yes, that one works, that one doesn't. Does that answer you better?
But it's true, isn't it, that price is not an indication of quality?
No.